Hey, welcome back to The Ones. We are a Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live discussion podcast. We're going to get right into it, right? First of all, we want to thank everyone who listens to us on Spotify, who's, rated us 5 stars, who watch us on YouTube, and we have over, 150 subscribers. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. And I know we've had quite a few like comments in the videos, particularly episode 2, our last video. And sometimes we'll dip in there and we'll respond to a couple, but we didn't respond too much last week. And I think the reason why, but besides the fact that there's 3 of us, and then there's another person who also helps us with some of the behind the scenes stuff. Like, we're not trying to change anyone's minds about like your opinions. So, we'll read your opinions on how things go, and it's like, oh, okay. But we don't want to like debate it, because I feel like once people start debating things, they're not debating it. They're just trying to change people's minds and bring people over to their side. And so like we have our opinions on how things go, and you guys have your opinions on how they go. And it's cool to read them and then, kind of just like keep it going. Right. Um, but I was reading Twitter today, and there was like a lot of discussion about how people are viewing and how they're watching the show. And now that we've got 3 episodes in, there seems like there's enough material for people to start, having opinions about, how the characters are moving about. And I remember, seeing this one discussion of a particular topic, and people said, basically the response was, well, essentially like the writers know what they're doing, or um sometimes you just have to suspend belief. And that's true. And I think everyone who watches The Walking Dead does that. We've accepted that dead people are walking around, so we suspend belief. Everyone does, right? But I think it's like when you're watching a show, and I'll be very like, let's take us for instance. Like, we as writers, I think we see things not differently, not better, right? But we're always looking at certain things. And I remember when I first started screenwriting, and someone, we're supposed to study television, and we're supposed to study scripts and read them. And someone said they never watch TV the same. And it's so true, because when you're crafting worlds and stories and characters, and I think for us, we're always looking at, okay, what was the purpose of this scene? What was the reason why, or I would have done it this way, or I would have done it that way. And I think sometimes that gets kind of clashes with a viewer who just wants to, receive and enjoy what they're watching, instead of like, oh, why'd you, say this, or why'd you do that? And they're not looking at it that same way. Now, some viewers do. They do the same thing. They critique things, and they, some people say, you know what, I'm just going to, I know I'm supposed to feel this way, so I'm going to feel this way and go on this journey. And then other people are like, no, you need to make me feel whatever it is you're telling me I'm supposed to be feeling, right? So, I mean, I think that I think we do a good job of suspending belief in certain things beyond just the dead people walking around. But I think the way we view it, we're always thinking of it as far as storytellers. Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that's true. Like, there are different ways you can look at it, like, the big picture kind of outlook, where why are certain decisions being made. I remember in my screenwriting class, my professor saying, every single thing that's in a frame is in a frame for a reason, regardless of what function it serves. Like, it might just be a parked car, but that parked car is placed there for a purpose. It's the color it is for a purpose. Like, the set designer like had in consultation with the director and consultation with the director of photography put or the cinematographer put that there. So, once you start like studying film, television, that sort of thing, you do start to kind of like look at it in the meta way, as opposed to just looking at it as a vehicle to be entertained. And there's nothing wrong with looking at it as a vehicle to be entertained. And I spent
I kind
many
of miss
years
it.
doing that. Yeah, exactly. I spent many years doing it that way and enjoyed it immensely. And sometimes I do. I just turn that part of my brain off, and I'm just like letting the whole show or movie just wash over me, especially if I'm like thinking, this is not supposed to challenge me, right? Like sometimes you're surprised. Like I was surprised by Barbie, right? Barbie, I was thinking was just going to be entertainment that kind of washed over me. It's about a doll, whatever. And then they introduced these topics and, this idea about feminism and blah, blah, blah. And so it required greater thought from me. There's nothing wrong with allowing, something to just wash over you. That's fine.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So yeah, we don't really think anyone's wrong. So if you like think like, oh, they didn't respond to us or whatever, it wasn't that. It was just like you have your way of looking at it and what you believe, and we respect that. So we're not trying to change anyone's minds about that. But having said that, we have episode 3. Bye. Thank you. I was like, what? Bye. And Michonne as Dana, right? And I feel like,
do we want to talk about our overall thoughts of the episode?
We can do that. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, me? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess that's true. Well, I like the episode. I really, I enjoy what they're doing overall. I think the central conflicts are just really interesting. And it's the kind of intrigue and like suspense that I think that was missing from the main show. And I'm really glad that we're getting it here. It feels more grounded because I'm not necessarily like a horror/zombie fan. So I have really had to suspend my disbelief. And so I really like that I don't have to do that as much in this show. I mean, there's still zombies, obviously, but it's like a political kind of drama, but it's Walking Dead style. And then with this love story. So yeah, I'm still like really, really enjoying what we're seeing. So how about you guys?
Yeah, I again, I think I agree with you. I love the way that we're getting so much story that's not about walkers and zombies and all that, right? Like we get to see this dynamic, this political and power structure. We get to see these two people in love and see these two people disagree with each other. We get to see friendships and things being tested. And it kind of goes back to what I think we all feel like The Walking Dead was early on. Because I think that was one of the key things about Walking Dead is like, what would you do in these situations? And like we were, I think I speak for all of us, like we were full of moments where we're like, I wouldn't do that. Or, oh, I agree with that. Or like that's smart or what, like, and those are the parts that intrigue me the most about this story. So overall, like I definitely like this episode. And even with the conflict between Rick and Michonne, I wish, they would have went even further. And hopefully, maybe we'll get that in episode 4. It seems like it. But yeah, I think generally overall, I definitely enjoyed the episode. How about you, Monty?
I had not exactly the same feelings that you guys had about the episode, but overall, I'm interested in seeing where it's all going. I'm, big fan of the Chip and the couple, and this is still, I would say, better writing than a lot of the later seasons for me personally of the original show. So I'm very intrigued. I haven't lost faith. I'm all in. I want to know what's going to happen next. I'm as on bated breath as everybody else trying to get to the next episode.
So I kind of brought it up. And then you kind of talked about how your feelings probably deviate a little bit. So let's go there. What is it about this episode that gave you pause?
Me? Mm-hmm. Okay. And I know what's going to happen after this, but I was very distressed by Michonne's movements, the way she was moving in this episode, and how sort of inconsistent with the way we've seen her move in other, in the flagship and stuff, and even maybe the episode before. So I'm just curious about what's going on, because seems a little different.
What do you mean by her movement?
I just think like she was kind of told that she needed to be a bee. And I mean, we joked about it last episode. Like, she knows she's supposed to be a bee. She knows what a bee is supposed to be. And she seems like sort of committed to not being one. I mean, I understand. And we had jokes about the fact that, she just doesn't know how to be a bee. But and I understand that, but it's like kind of a matter of life and death. So I just wanted to see her try a little harder to like suppress her A tendencies, and I think that wasn't happening.
Okay. Ashley, any comments on that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Let me preface this by saying, because listen, we love Michonne. We absolutely love Michonne.
Oh, yeah.
We would not be here if we didn't. And I actually really love that there's a significant part of this fandom that is just like very protective of her. But you don't have to protect her from us. Yes. We love her. Like I want that protection for her, is what she deserves. And, she's gotten a lot of undue criticism, that often comes from like a place of misogynoir. So yes, protect her at all costs. But we love Michonne. As Black women, as writers, we have, spent a lot of words trying to give her the story she deserves before she got it. So, we're here for Michonne, absolutely. That said, listen, girl, what are you doing? I mean, I really think that she's more cunning than this episode gave her credit for, I think is my main pause with this. I think there's a lot to be said for like her frustrations and the kind of like Hail Mary she throws at the end of this episode. But it's complicated for me by the existence of her kids. Like, yes, she is fighting for her marriage. She's having her lemonade moment. She's lemonading. I love that. But also, like, Judith and RJ at home and being like, I don't know if we're going to make it. Girl, that's crazy. You can't say that. So, yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's a line between fearless and reckless. And I will be interested to see in the next episode how that's handled, with her like towing and maybe crossing that line. Right now it's kind of given like season 7 Rosita, season 5 Rick. Like, I'm just kind of like, what are you doing? But it's okay, because I also know that I also kind of like that Michonne is just a little bit crazy when it comes to Rick. Like, she just like, I remember in No Way Out when he went out into that into the herd by himself, and she's like losing her mind, and I kind of love that about her. But again, now that they have very young kids, don't know what's going on, it's like, well, maybe one of y'all should make it back home, So I hope I'm sure that will be part of the next episode as well. And I imagine, I don't have any spoilers, I just kind of imagine that's when Rick will find out about RJ. But yeah, right now I'm just like, do you remember RJ?
Yeah. Like, because to criticize a character's actions doesn't mean you don't understand what they're going through or why they're doing it. And like you said, we've seen her be, you think we've even seen her be a little, out there. Like, the whole idea of going after the governor in Woodsbury that night when they went back to get, Glenn and Maggie, like, that was a little, what are you doing? But yeah, so I wish she would have been like, and it's like, oh, she doesn't know how to, like, I don't really kind of accept that. Like,
some can do.
You don't have to be submissive or whatever, but be a little, like, bring it down a notch. And because you can still be calculating, you can still be trying to figure out how you're going to get out of here, how you're going to take these people down, whatever it is, how to escape, but without it almost felt like you're like in their faces taunting them. But I also feel like Rick, and we'll get to it probably later, Rick could have done a better job of explaining to her why he's not moving the same way she is. Right.
Yes.
But
I don't know he did anything to explain it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, she still knows what the CRM is. They killed all her friends. So it's not like she needs that information to move differently, but I think it would help. Right. And I also, like, when he told her to leave, I knew she wouldn't, but I wanted her to, because I'm like, girl, go home, assemble the Avengers and get some help. Like, it doesn't have to be just the two of you. So I wish she had at least considered, or we had seen her consider it, I guess, because that's another part of this.
Yeah. So this episode starts out with a flashback of when Rick and Jadis get to, Philly or whatever, right? Oh. And this kind of goes along with something else we're going to talk about later. But what we got from this is that, Rick figures that Jadis got something, some kind of standing in return for handing him over. Which again, we're going to have a discussion about this whole A and B thing, but that's like, doesn't make sense to me. That makes me question this whole A and B thing. But Amani, what did you think about Jadis and Rick and that whole flashback moment?
I think she was looking for more gratitude than she clearly received, because of course, as he said, you brought me to some place that I cannot leave now. So, like, what am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to say thank you to you for separating me from my family? Like, what's going on? So he definitely met her with the attitude that she deserved. It was an interesting introduction to how Rick came into, the CRM, or really the CR, right? Civic Republic, and saw what was on offer, and still was really kind of not interested, because he was like, my wife and children are here and all my friends. So it doesn't matter if you're having like a little, festival farmers market, like in the olden days, I'm not interested. And, like I said, Jadis was a little bit, I don't understand why she seemed confused by his lack of appreciation. Like she just generally kind of clueless and stuff, but she did not
read the room.
Right. But she did also kind of explain, and it was kind of like what we imagined, that she, that her garbage people were trading people for, goods and services and stuff like that. And, so that was interesting to have it like explicitly stated finally.
Yeah.
And so after that, we get a flashback that's a little more closer to current times. It's a few hours before we get to Jadis again in Rick's room, but it shows Rick going to Thorne's room and telling, he asked, but not really, for her to, protect this woman that saved me. And he said, they'll probably think that I'm just kind of, indebted to her. So therefore I'm not thinking clearly when it comes to evaluating who she is. And so it's like, you need to do this. So Ashley, talk about that moment between Rick and Thorne and what you got from, that conversation.
Of course, you asked me about the scene I have no notes on. I think, but I think it's interesting that he said that he's emotional, and they would, that he was indebted, and they would think he was emotional, because that's kind of where it seems like Thorne is she is emotional over Okafor. She feels indebted to Rick. This is all she has left. And she kind of makes this decision because of, I don't mean a romantic affection, but just like the affection that she has for Rick, and decides to help him out. She clearly regrets that later. But luckily, she does have those feelings and says, okay, I will do this for you, even though I'm not really trusting this whole situation. So, yeah, they're kind of in the same spots with different people.
Right. Yeah, because you brought this up. Like, I've seen some people mention this too. I don't think that she has any romantic feelings towards Rick. I think, like you said, she had Okafor and Rick, and now Okafor is gone. she is on a different continent. Okay, they seem to be all she had, right? And Okafor is gone. Now you have Rick. So all she has is like Rick, and later we'll see this mission or whatever it is, and alcohol, because they always drinking. But come back to that. This is weird, but yeah, this is. I don't think that there's any romantic feelings that way. I have noticed in the scenes that they have together, like Rick tends to stand very close to her, and he's like kind of in her face. But I also think, especially in this moment, he's trying to convince her of something. When you're trying to convince someone of something, there's almost, it's like an art of seduction. Like, and it's not romantic. It's just it's like charisma. You have to get them to buy in. And you do it with whichever way you can, however you can. And I think that's all it is between those two. I don't think she has any feelings for him, and I don't think she's feeling any kind of jealous way about Dana when it comes to
partly because she's maybe oblivious, but I also think, I want to say Rick is a close talker in general. Like, remember when he first met Michonne? Like, he was in her
that's
face.
true too. He was in her face.
But no, yeah, I agree with you that I think he's been very good at I think he does care for her, but he's also very good at playing along to get what he needs to get out of her. And that's part of why I think their relationship is so interesting, because it's very complex. Yeah. I don't know if he would say family. Maybe you call her a friend, but there's something there that he cares about. She did save him, but he's also like, Michonne is here. This is what my real focus is. And she just has no idea. So that's all really interesting to me.
Yeah. So
it's unfortunate, really, quite honestly, I think it's unfortunate for her that, I'm assuming at some point it all will become known, and the level of sort of deception, I think, that she might feel, or betrayal that she might feel, I would get it, because it's like, yeah, you couldn't confide in me about who this woman was to you, but the way in which he's kind of manipulating her into, like, he cited like Okafor to be like, do this, don't do this for me, do this for Okafor, like for his dream, for his vision. Like, I was like, ooh, Rick.
But I think there is some part of him that does believe in this. Like, when she tells him, we're skipping ahead, but when she tells him that he's going to be briefed, he pauses like, whoa, like there's something in him. He's been here for a very long time that buys in a little bit. I don't think that, like he told Michonne, I'm not with them, but actually it's when he's told Michonne, I didn't know, but I knew. It's kind of like, I'm not with them, but I am. And again, I really like all this part of it.
So after he goes, and gets, Thorne's buy-in to help Dana, he goes back to his room, and Jadis is already there. She's already seen the video. She's already peeped what's going on. And Jadis, I'm still waiting on this death. But she also, even though she's annoying, she is an interesting character in that she's all over the place. But I think the one through line is that Jadis is always going to put Jadis first. Absolutely. It doesn't care if it's her scavenger group. It doesn't care if it didn't matter that she was with Rick's group and Gabriel. Yeah, it didn't matter about any of that. She's first and foremost, she's going to put herself first. And she just out and out threatens Rick with his family, his friends back at Alexandria. They'll be annihilated. Like, Amani, how in that moment when you're watching Rick with Jadis, what were you feeling with that dynamic?
Well, first of all, Andrew Lincoln was acting his ass off. So, because he was like, you could see all, unfortunately, I saw, something online where they were trying to like suggest that, he's not as strong or not as masculine in these moments and of, weakness, or he's like over a barrel. Like, what do you want? She is telling him point blank, just as you said, it was like a don't pass go directly to jail. Like she was already he was making moves trying to protect Michonne, and she was already waiting for him in his apartment to be like, don't you even dream of trying to run away with her. Like, I know as soon as I saw her here that was going to be your plan. And if you even think of doing it, I'm going to mess your whole world up. And if you think that you're going to kill me to stop me from doing that, I've already prepared for that as well. So I have got you completely over a barrel. Now what? And, you know, of course, Andrew's giving you all of that, right? Rick is he's just kind of like, why? Why can't you just leave us alone? Like, you know, why are you even involved in this? Why did you show up here? And she was just like, because he was like, why do you care now? I tried to escape 5 times and you weren't involved in that. And she's like, because I know that now that you and Michonne are back together, y'all gonna be a problem for me. So I'm already ahead, you know, I'm already trying to be 10 steps ahead of you. And so, you know, I think back to what we're saying, I think that would have been important information to share with, you know, interested parties.
Yes. So speaking of interested parties, we get to Dana, the zombie slayer. You know, she's out there on the wall. She's out here killing these damn walkers with all this flair. And even Cleo, even Cleo, who's like, oh, like you got your shit together. You know what you're doing. How long have you been out there? And then, you know, and this is just the great acting of Denai, who's playing Dana horribly. She's playing Michonne, playing Dana poorly, which just goes back to Denai's acting skills. Because you're looking at her like, girl, nobody believes you. Like, oh, how do you know I've been out there so long? Well, what makes you think that? Or later on, you tell me if I'm supposed to do 3 days or 6 days. I'm just like, girl, please. But, you know, Denai is amazing. But it's, yeah, Cleo says you radiate, you like shit knowing. And then you have Rick, who's watching her with his hard eyes as she's walking away. And it's like, ugh.
They're both so bad at this.
Exactly. It's like,
that's the worst plan ever. Right.
Please be less
obvious. I don't know.
I really feel like I kept waiting for them to get caught. I'm like, I kept waiting. In fact, when he's like following her, he turns his whole head to watch her go away.
Yes.
He looks again and his face sobers up. I thought it was because Thorne was looking at him like, what? Now, it was Thorne, but she wasn't looking at him. He was just, you know, looking at her. But I really did think someone had caught him staring at, you know, Dana. But it wasn't. It was just him seeing Thorne. And I guess it's kind of like sobering up, like, oh, yeah, what are we going to do? Like, you know.
I mean, CRM must not be as sharp as we think, because how are you not clocking any of this? All they do is stare at each other. They're not even they sneak away together. They don't hide it. Like, they coming out the door at the same time. They're bad at this.
That was last episode. I was thinking, I was like, have you ever heard of like a delay? Like,
right.
First of all, he should have let her out first. Right, because she's the one who's not supposed to be there.
Exactly.
And then slowly he comes out. He's like out with his mask, and then she's got to come. I was like, yo.
And not even bothering to put the helmet on first. Just they're so bad at this. Like,
so bad. So, you know, we have Okafor's funeral, and we see Major General Beale reappear. And it's like everything he's saying is like it's for Rick, right? Even when he says something about enemies can be our salvation if we look at them different. And the camera, going back to what Amani said at the beginning about things are a certain way for a reason, as he's saying that, you know, enemies can be our salvation if we look at them differently. You're on Rick, but then it pans and you see Jadis. And then it goes to Thorne, right? And then he talks about sacrifice, and he talked about Okafor's sacrifice. And then you have this look on Rick's face, and it feels like that's when he starts making this decision that I guess his sacrifice once again is for the person he loves, and they like, oh, I got to get her out of here, but I know I can't leave. But after the funeral, Thorne tells Rick about Okafor finding her. We get more information about that. And then we have Major General Beale with Thorne and Rick. So, Ashley, did you have any like thoughts about that whole like those scenes, like the funeral and Thorne and Rick, Thorne telling Rick about, being rescued, or even with Bill after?
Yeah, definitely. I picked up those same quotes that you did from, finding salvation in our enemies. And I thought about Jadis and what her role will probably be in the show. When he said fighting on different sides in different wars, I thought of Rick and how he's conflicted and maybe kind of all over the place, partly because he believes in it, partly just to get the hell out of there. I found it interesting, when Beale comes up to them and I love how Rick is like in the middle of his thanking them. He's like, hold up. I still don't like you. That was very real. But no, when he mentions, Pharmacon and, Rick, I mean, he didn't say Rick was the poison in the cure, but he said he thought of Rick when he used that word. And I think there was an interesting oxymoron that Rick had in episode 1, where he tells Okafor that this is the end of it and the start of it. And, I think about Jadis and how she both saved Rick's life and ruined Rick's life. And there is an interesting sort of dichotomy between all these things. And I think it speaks to the complexity of this story. And I think that's why I am enjoying it so much, because nothing is simple. It's and nothing is exactly as it seems. Like, I hate Jadis. I call her Raggedy Ann because I just cannot stand that woman. By the way, I'm going off topic. Did she take Gabriel's name? Because her last name is Stokes. Was that already her name, or she took his?
I think she took his.
Maybe. Okay.
I mean,
I think that dating, because that would have been quite the coincidence. So.
It would have, but that's kind of what I thought, because I didn't know they were like that. But okay. Yeah. Anyway, back to the point. Yeah, I'm really interested to see how all of this plays out. I assume episodes 5 and 6 will focus a lot more on the CRM aspects of this, but I don't know. I mean, this also ties into Thorne and what she learns. We don't know what she learns, but I'm curious about how she's feeling, because she mentions that maybe her initial thoughts about Okafor were right in the first place. And I'm wondering how that's going to play into her thoughts about Rick, about Dana, just how all of that is going to all tie together. Because right now it's a bit discreet, but I think they're going to tie it up in an interesting way. I'm going to have faith in that at least.
Yes. So after her meeting with Major General Beale, Imani, Thorne shows up and she has been promoted. She is Command Sergeant Major Thorne. Talk about that moment with her and Rick at Rick's room.
And she is totally bought in. She has gotten the echelon briefing, and she is like, I'm all about whatever it is. Well, it brought me back to the first scene where Jadis was trying to sell Rick on CRM2 and said that
light of the world.
Yeah, they were the last light of the world, and that they had a 500-year plan to like get everything back. I think that's what she said.
See, 500-year plan. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, even if
side note, can America today in 2024 get a 500-year plan? Because
I mean,
we're on fire.
Okay, but maybe I'm reading something actually right now about the founders and stuff, and so maybe the idea is that they're doing some like refresh of the Declaration of Independence, like that whole thing. Like they're thinking that they're restarting America. Like in that serious a way, right? Like they're starting over. So I'm thinking that that's part of which throws me off a little bit, because I'm like, well, then how did Jadis already get pieces of this echelon briefing before, when she hadn't even enrolled in CRM yet, but enlisted in CRM yet? But so they may be two totally different things, or I don't know, but you definitely get the impression that that's like something that Thorne heard, whatever the 500-year plan is. Like because she's all in now. She was like, I might not go about it the same way that Okafor did, but like I see what they're talking about. They have a plan. I am in. Like she'd already kind of bought in because Okafor was bringing her in and she didn't have anything else. But I think she's now where Jadis is. Like they really believe this is the last light of the world. Like this is the last chance for humanity, and they are officially drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. That moment after she gets the brief, it reminds me of president-elects. Like when they're running for president, it's like, we're going to change this and we're going to do this and civil liberties and it's great. And then they start getting those classified briefs of the threats that's out there. And then it's a lot more sobering. It's a lot. It's like,
the stuff that turns their hair white.
Yeah, exactly. Right. After 40. Yeah, exactly.
That light starts dimming real quick.
Yes. It's like, these dangers are real. They're real.
No, we can't.
Yeah, there's a problem. People are after us. They're trying to get us. The world is a dangerous place. Like, yikes.
And that doesn't even mention the space aliens that I'm not supposed to tell you about.
Yeah, about all those liberties and those things, those FISA warrants I said we should get rid of. Maybe, we'll keep them. But yeah, so she definitely, once she got that briefing, you could tell there was a bit of a change, right? And she was very passionate. So then
hold on, before you move on, sorry. I am curious, do you guys think that they've given her, like, what we know about Omaha, they don't necessarily know on the show, like Jadis knows, obviously. Do you think that she has been given the real information about that? Or are they still, like, is she still not quite seeing all of the light? Like, how truthful is Bill with these people that he's bringing in, do we think?
I kind of thought, like, at first, because you talked about that before, and I thought about it, and I was like, at first, my immediate thing was no, because she doesn't seem like the type of person who would be down for that, like, down for the killing of this whole population. But the way in which, like, upon subsequent viewing, I thought the way in which they might have fed her this information that has her so all in, they might have been able to present this, the killing of 100,000 people to save millions, right? Like they might have been able to give her, like that kind of trolley problem thing where she's just like, look, this was unfortunate. We had to kill off this whole population, but but she was so hurt by it.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's possible. And I think it's also possible that it's like, when you have an inner circle, but there's like circles within the circle. Like, okay, we're cool, but then there's another circle that I'm not privy to. And then it gets smaller and smaller. And so she probably has some information, a lot of information that she didn't have before. And she, like Imani said, I think it was presented in a way and it's like, this is what we need to do, like the ultimate sacrifice, the way Okafor did. Like we have to do this if we are going to make this world better and bring it back and all that. So it's very possible, like she knows everything, but it's also been done in a way that maybe she's bought into it and doesn't think it's so bad. Like you said, it's unfortunate, but I mean, that's what has to be done. Right. So after this, we get Sergeant Major Thorne and no salute. I'm like, no salute because we're inside, but whatever.
Come on, inside knowledge.
Yeah, you salute. Exactly. I mean, well, you salute inside if you're like if I recall correctly, you're reporting, right? If you have to report for duty, a certain duty, then you do that. But no, we don't salute inside. There's specific reasons. And
I love when you give us
not just because you're leaving the room. Yeah, we don't do that. So, okay, now we get Rick's plan. We got the voiceover and Rick is giving his plan on escaping. And so we see this intercut. We see Rick going ahead and he's getting things ready. And then behind him, we see Michonne. But there was one thing that we saw that Rick saw that he was reading. Remember that writing that was on the ground and it said, tell them I'm sorry. And then something like I lie or something about a lie or something. And I was like, what does that mean? And then you saw a bag and it looked like it had cans in it or something. I'm not sure. But for whatever reason, I kind of thought, I wonder if this is like soldiers committing suicide or like military right now. I mean, it has a real problem with veteran suicide, right? And I think the reason I thought of this in that moment, it could be something totally different. But in episode 1, when Okafor took Thorne and Rick out, and there was a soldier, it was a walker, it was dead, and it was he took off the dog tags, and she was like, "Oh, that's a soldier," and he's like, "Yeah," but he was very like nonchalant about it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, I'm like, well, why is this soldier out here dead? Why is his body still there? Why is, and it seemed like because back in his room, he had a bunch of dog tags that were hanging, right? I'm assuming those were all, soldiers who had died. But I was just curious if anybody thought about what that meant, tell them I'm sorry in that location. Because not many people, I think, would have access to that area.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
It was such a weird place to like have laid down and died, because I thought there was a body there too. And
I think there was.
Yeah, and it said M, but I knew it didn't have anything to do with Michonne, but like I was just like, what is that? Like I really didn't know. I feel like, again, nothing's anywhere for no reason. So there's something that we're supposed to get from that. I just didn't know what it was.
I missed it. So
I mean, like in a literal sense, I did not get it either. I thought it was symbolism, like with the M and everything, is Rick laying down and saying, "I'm sorry, I can't do this" or whatever. But yeah, I was also confused about the logistics, and like I thought about episode 1 and that soldier. I'm like, how are they dying down here? It didn't. I was confused. So yeah, if anybody else has any ideas about what that is,
let us know in the comments, like what you thought that meant. So yeah, you guys talk about that whole sequence. So he lies. He tells her that, then he writes her a letter. And I remember when she was like, Rick. And then the letter, and I was like, this fool her and thought that she was actually going to leave. Like, sir, please. And so, but then we cut to Rick telling Jadis that Michonne left. And basically, just like he was telling Thorne, like, hey, you're going to get in line and make sure she was protected and protect her from, trouble. So talk about that, either one of you, like his whole interaction with Jadis.
Well, I first want to talk about his decision to do this dumb letter. Could it have worked better? Because, okay, there's like joy on Michonne's face when she gets out there and she is like thinking that they're about to get away. And then there's panic when she's like, where's Rick? And she thinks something's happened. And I'm just thinking about the sheer disappointment she must have felt to get that note and him being like, I'm not coming. Bitch, are you serious? Like, are you crazy? I don't understand what he was thinking, but do we think it could have played better if he had done this with her, like just said, please? I mean, I know it would have been hard for him to like actually watch her go, but could it have played better for her if he had just been there to say it? The note is so impersonal and it feels like he's pushing her away instead of adequately like explaining why she needs to go. And I don't know. I mean, it just feels like you could have handled this a whole lot better, especially if you went to the trouble of going out there anyway. Like, just
it did feel cruel. Because there was this hope that we're going to leave, and it just feel cruel to like
snatch it away and so impersonally. I'm like, I see why she wanted to pull your head off. Because why would you do this for the love of your life?
Yeah, that was and because we know either which way she wasn't leaving, right? But it does that there was a level of like, even though it was an intentional like cruelty to like this hope, and you just snatch it away. I mean, that's true.
I looked, first of all, I was very slow up on the uptake, so I thought something had happened to Rick at first. Before she pulled out the letter, I thought something had happened to him, like he'd gotten caught or something.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what she thought.
Yeah,
like, where is he? I was super confused, and then when she read the note, and all I could think was that, I mean, Rick is very rarely accused of cowardice, but it might have been like a bit of cowardice on his part. Like he one way or another, he had to trick her to get her out there. So it would have been that he was telling her they're going to go together, and then he brought her out there, or he did what he did and like led her out there. But one way or another, I don't think he could have told her before that this was the plan. Like that we're gonna go to this place, journey to this spot, and then I'm gonna let you go and I'm gonna stay here. That was not gonna fly. And so I thought like maybe it was like just a little cowardice on his part that he was like, I can't bear it. Like I can't bear to watch you go. Yeah. So I'm gonna coax you out here. And then
when we had that moment where they had that very horrible passing of the note, where it was like so obvious.
I know. That's like the worst
spies. You are not.
Exactly. In the history of spy
I was wrong about them being Elizabeth and Philip.
No, yeah, okay. They ain't got nothing on the Jennings.
Absolutely not.
Side note, if you've never seen The Americans, go watch The Americans. It's amazing. But yeah, I was just like, ugh. And like I half expected like them to like drop the note or something. It was just that bad. But you can see it on his face when
it's so big. Like it's supposed to be like tiny. It's like brush pass.
It's a whole like half piece of paper. Yeah. They're terrible.
Yeah, you see it on his face that when he's closing his eyes, he's like, oh, you know, because he knows he's trying to get her to leave, and that was going to be the last time he saw her. But we get to Rick telling Jadis, like, you will help her, you know, get away with leaving. And like Ashley, talk about that whole interaction between Rick and Jadis and how that went about and the Jadis of it all.
Jadis with the bad hair strikes again. What is wrong with her? It's not that she can't. She refuses to read the room. But I appreciate the way Andy like plays the scene. He poured a little sauce on it. I love when he imitates her. He's like, people are a resource. Our fates are bound. I'm like, okay. I think he's finally, I mean, he has nothing to lose at this point. He thinks he's lost Michonne. So let's go. I hate you, Jadis. That's like the main thrust of his feelings toward her. Meanwhile, she's still like flirting with him, which again, I do not understand. You have just made him make the love of his life leave, and you are still like pushing up on him. But what I really would like to know what is wrong with her. Like living out in the trash affects her brain. Like I do not understand how she is still this thirsty despite all of his efforts to say, I actually hate you.
We had one of our listeners wrote in, Celine said, now, why is Jadis saying to Rick if there's something that's keeping him? Is she hinting herself? Because we're in Delulu land then. Like, yes, what are your thoughts?
That's where Jadis lived. She went from trash to Delulu land. That's exactly what I felt she was implying, and I don't know how, but yes. She's like, I did save your life.
Yeah, because she said, I did save your life. And I'm like, yeah.
It seemed to be implying maybe you stayed for me. You know, you have some feelings for me since I saved you. And I'm like, girl.
What were you thinking, Amani?
I really just thought that, I mean, the I saved your life was, I thought, like a joke, like the way she constantly does, like, you know, I have him after, you know, all that nonsense that she tends to do was her like little push up. But I didn't think that part was. I thought that part was, what are you up to? Like, I thought that she was kind of like, well, what else did you stay here for? Like, do I need to be concerned? Or could it be that, you know, it's me, you know, like that type of way? But like, it definitely felt like there were two things working at the same time. Like, I don't think that she seriously thought that's what he stayed for. I think she's just like kind of like, what else are you up to, Grimes? Like,
I mean, but realistically, what she forced his hand, like he literally had no other choice but to stay. So I don't know what.
And that's the part I feel like
that's the case.
Where she's being a clown, because like, why else are you staying? It's like, well, you just threatened to kill my family. Of course I'm staying. Like, are you stupid?
She doesn't know. You know, she doesn't know like social norms and that sort of thing. Like, so I just don't think that she, like you said, I don't think she's capable of reading a room. So she, you know, I don't know that she understands the inappropriateness or appropriateness of like that kind of joke. And like, yeah, clearly I'm still here because of what you said, but not because of you.
Okay.
But I do want to say, yeah, exactly. But I want to
Glad
say
somebody told her.
he did. She did agree though. If you notice, like I think that maybe got a little lost in everything that happened, but she did agree. She would have. She was like, "I'm not going to be here right now, but when Dana is like listed as missing, I'll be back probably by the time that happens, and I'll put myself in place to investigate." So
But she still has to, like, or
yeah, to cover her ass, which is why that was part of it too. So there's that too. Like that plan would have actually probably worked.
Right. So Rick gets a page, and I can't really dab like pagers, and so he gets a page, and
doctors still have pagers. Okay, so
so
if they have pages, does that mean they have phones?
I mean, who? So he gets summoned to Command Sergeant Major Thorne, who says, "You have a problem." And then he sees that Michonne is still there. And for some reason, he is surprised that Michonne did not leave.
Right.
And so they go off, and she promptly snatches him up, right? Like literally snatches this helmet off his head. And he seems, again, shocked that she's angry. But before that, we see the Grimes 68, and that I'm assuming that means like he's on the leaderboard for like most Walker kills, which she's gonna surpass. She's gonna have the new record, and they could have kept Grimes with her number, but they don't know, so it's probably gonna be Bethune and whatever her number is. But she snatches them up real quick, and she doesn't say a word. It was all him. And first of all, Rick does this. It was in the letter. And then he said, "I told you, if you love me, you leave." And it's like, I thought about Lori. Remember when Lori was like, Rick said that Lori would say, "Speak." And I feel like maybe this is what Lori was talking about. Because you could have talked to her and communicated the threats that have been directed toward you and your family and your loved ones. And that's why, but you did not speak. You're trying to play, this reverse psychology or whatever it is. But he's got all this spin for what he did and why he did it. And it just felt like she's looking at him. And I love that she didn't say anything, because it feels like you've forgotten who I am. You've forgotten who and what we are together. And maybe we can't bring down this organization, just the two of us, but we've always been able to communicate. We've always been able. It was like that, one of those scenes, I think one of Ashley's favorite scenes, when they had that kiss in the cell. Like when she's telling him, like, we're the ones who live. You said that. And they communicated during the Savior War that lasted all of 30 days. But even though it lasted 2 years.
Whole seasons.
So, but they did not, but she didn't say one word, and I appreciated that so much. Like, Ashley, talk about that moment. What did you feel in that moment? What'd you get out of it?
I laughed so hard. I'm sorry. In this case, I understand Michonne's anger. I understand why she didn't have to say a word to express herself. I love Danae's acting so much in this moment. I also I low-key felt it was like a little manipulative for Rick to be like, "If you love me, you'll leave." Like, bitch.
Oh, that is so manipulative.
What?
Yeah.
So I'm really glad she gave him absolutely nothing but like that really hard stare and was like, "You're going to have to figure this out," because there is no way you believe what you said was going to work. There's no way you believe that. I mean, I don't understand why Rick hasn't said anything about Jade just yet. I guess for the moment at the end, it wasn't that big of a moment, so he could have just said it. But at this point, I think he needed the silence in order to kind of confront what he's putting on Michonne by not even communicating well. So she gives it right back to him. And so it's time for him to kind of, I think they do need a timeout. I don't like the way Michonne did it necessarily, but this is the prelude to that realization. Like they need to come to Jesus at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Imani, what'd you feel about it?
Well, like Ashley said, I love Denai's acting in this scene because she says like it's like those memes you see of like how black women talk to each other. It's like girl, 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 and you just know the whole thing is happening. And so like when he says at the end that my favorite part is when she rips the helmet off his head and throws it. I'm like, oh Jesus, I love this. Oh, but then like at the end when he's like, if I said, if you love me, you leave. And the way she's just like, you did not say that nonsense. Not to me.
Mm.
And then she just walks away. It's like, mwah.
Yes,
he looks so confused.
So confused. Like, what is going on? It's like,
this is such a married couple.
Like, yeah, like you don't know who you decided to spend your life with. Who you don't know, like you don't know your wife. And so then we go, Michonne in the city, right? She goes off and she's walking around and she's having in a voiceover where she's talking to Judith, but I don't really understand because I'm sure she doesn't have the radio because she had to give up all the stuff. You're not writing a letter, I don't think, because we've never seen you write a letter like we saw Rick write letters in episode 1. So maybe just like her imaginary friend in her head is.
We did see her writing in the Walking Dead finale. But yeah.
Right, but I mean, while she's in.
Oh no, not while she's walking.
And they confiscated her. Rick
he took the radio and stuff. Yeah,
her journal.
So she's talking to Judith, and I love this part when she says that she felt like we may have lost him. Mm-hmm. Like we've lost him to the ambition and to what this place could be, and I'm beginning to wonder, I'm beginning to have doubts. And I actually wish they would have played this up a little more before we get to this moment where she sees the guy that who drew her and Judith, because like, I wish they would have done more. Like I said, seeing him in his element, seeing him be strong, seeing people respect him, seeing people following him, seeing even, and not to be like flirty and make her jealous, but to see him maybe laughing with Thorne, and then she has this idea of like, wow, like and then she would probably think back to episode 2 and he said, oh, this happened one of the last times I tried to leave. And I wish they would have played it up more, but it was there. She had some reservations and she was wondering, like, is this going to happen? And she sees a drawing that is similar to the drawing that she saw of herself and Judith on the phone. And she goes over to this guy and he says that, well, first of all, he looks up immediately and he knows she's Michonne. Like, I know this place probably got like, a couple 100,000 people or something. I forgot how many people there were.
Was it 200,000?
Was it? I thought it was quite a few, but I mean, maybe she is the only Black woman that we saw. And have we seen any other Black women in Civic Republic? Maybe it is, but he somehow managed to know it was her. See, this is another thing, guys. Suspend belief. Because it doesn't, when you look at it, disbelief, yes, when you use disbelief. When you look at that picture in the context of the show, yes, that's Judith and Michonne. But that didn't look like Michonne. But anyway, Imani, and we're cool, we're fine. We're gonna rock with it. It's fine. But it's not a criticism. It's really not. But anyway, go talk about that moment, Imani, with.
Why did you ask me to talk
Don't
about
ask me.
when you're saying it's not a criticism? Because that's what's happening. That's what's about to happen. Because
see, we don't always know what each other's going to say. Because I didn't know she was going to. I thought she was just going to talk about, oh my gosh, we got a Carl moment, and it was great.
That was sweet, and I almost forgot. So thank you for reminding me. So yeah, there was a shout out to Carl. That was sweet. I loved it. I was like, oh, but how are you going to tell me that your scratches equal Michonne's face? Like, please. Like, what are we saying? It's not like he had a picture of Michonne and Judith and was like, this is my love, and can you please reproduce this in your style of art?
If he had a picture, he would need one.
Exactly. He doesn't know what Michonne looks like. And it was just like, that was, for the purposes of the show, I did choose to also suspend disbelief for about 2 seconds, and I was like, okay, because there's a greater point that's being made here, and I will follow this to its logical conclusion. But it is highly illogical that they would even have that conversation, that he would know who she was. It makes no sense. Okay, I'm done.
Yes, but he says to her,
yes,
Rick will come to him every couple of months
mm-hmm.
for a long time. He didn't even mention their names, but then he eventually did, and how maybe he talks about seeing them again until, using these pictures until he can see them again. And that gave, Michonne hope, like, okay, I haven't lost him. And the guy says that he stopped talking like that for a while. And then he told him, believe a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And so she says, I'm looking for him now, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
Because it just hits to what we're talking about. This is not the Rick she knew. They are not on the same page. And she's trying to figure it out. And, and he says it to her. Well, you believe just a little bit longer too.
Yeah.
So Ashley, you want to add any feelings or thoughts about that moment?
No.
Okay. We can keep it moving. So after that, we get Thorne, Rick, and Michonne. And Thorne calls over Bethune, right? And they end up having a conversation where she takes, Rick and Thorne take Michonne out to, I don't know, the ruins or whatever. It's where the city had been bombed. And this is where Thorne says of Rick, he's family. He's my family now. Like this is all she has. That and whatever the CRM's vision is for the world, which is why I think she's frustrated with Michonne, because Thorne only has so much, and Dana is threatening that. But, she says he's family, and Michonne says that she helped him because he was on the ground and he was helpless. And then Love and Thorne was like, this dude, like helpless, like, nah. And Michonne says, basically, it's like this Mariah Carey thing. Like, I don't know her. And she's like, well, I don't know him. And I thought that was great too, because she was like, because she's not just talking to Thorne. She's also talking to Rick. And she's like, I don't know him. And it was so very true. Like, I don't know you.
A very pointed.
I don't know him. Right. And Thorne talks about, like, they don't let A's in. They don't let people like you in because you're not going to go in there and shop and farm and do whatever needs to be done and just be thankful to be alive and safe. You're not going to do that. You're going to be doing what you were doing the first day you got there. You're going to be looking around, looking for answers, wanting to know things, questioning everything. And, she reaches back and she's like, she's about to take out her knife. And then Rick pulls his gun. And she basically tests Michonne, and Michonne passes by saying she wants to know the secrets. She wants to know the answers and everything. And then Thorne decides that Michonne is going to come along with them when they go out to the Cascades to finish up in preparation for the summit. So, Imani, give us your feelings about that scene.
Well, it's a funny thing because I actually felt a little sad for Thorne in that moment, because here she is telling, Michonne, like, friendship is like too light a word right now. This dude is my family. And what she doesn't realize is that she put her hand on that knife and he was like, family who? Family what? He was like, that was all very nice what you just said. We've known each other a long time, technically longer than I've known. Nope. Than I was with Michonne. Not that I've known her, but that I was with her. But love and the love of my life and you, whoever you are two totally different things.
The lady who keeps breaking glasses and throwing glasses at me, like,
right. I I can't remember what movie it was right now, but it was, oh God, I can't remember, but they were like, it was like a standoff, and he was like, don't you, put that gun in my brother's face. And these was someone he was friends with. And he was like, don't you put that gun in my brother's face. And the guy was just like, like continuing to do it. And it was like, you're going to get shot. You think that y'all are cool,
Right.
but you're actually about to get shot. And I felt the same thing. Like, I was just like, you have that knife out, and what you don't realize is that you're not going to be able to pull it out to the point that you even really threaten Michonne with it before he shoots you in the back. Yeah. So that made me a little sad for her. Not too sad, because why are you trying to kill Michonne? But or Dana. But but it did tug on my heartstrings a little bit, because it speaks to how much ultimately Rick is going to have to mislead Thorne, right, in this whole process. But I am actually curious about, once that whole thing wraps up and they're walking out, when Michonne is leaving, when she's been dismissed or whatever, she looks at, because Rick's put the gun back in his holster, but Michonne looks at him, and I just can't read that look, because it looked kind of like, what were you gonna do with that gun? Like, which is weird. Like, because I thought it was kind of obvious. He was like, I will shoot her if she tries anything with you. But Michonne did not look pleased with that behavior at all. And then, of course, Thorne, I guess, has eyes in the back of her head, because she knew he had pulled his gun, and he had to play it off like, oh, I was just supporting you. I'm helping you. Like, when he tells Michonne, it's only 8. You can handle 8. He was like, I'm backing you up. What you mean? Like, I got that gun pulled behind you, because
I don't know what her look was. Michonne's look. I think it was just more like, I don't know. I'm still mad at your bitch ass. Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, that's reasonable. It's just that she looks at the gun. She looks at like where his. Yeah, she looks down at the gun for a second. So that's why I thought maybe there was something more to it. But I could completely understand if it was more like she's giving him the look, like, look at you.
Right. Oh, now you support me.
She does. Well, she does give him a look when he's being, what she's supposed to do, which is to fall in line and play the game. Because when they go out west and, Thorne is giving her orders, and she's like, we're not going to let, the mission or whatever get messed up, or whatever she said. And he says, no, ma'am, and he's loud and whatever. And Michonne's kind of like, look at you. And I'm like, that's what you're supposed to be doing. That's what you're supposed to be doing.
What's he supposed to do? Like, you look so stupid now, right now, Thorne. Like, I salute you.
She wants him to be openly insubordinate, like,
and hostile. Like, no, that's not getting him anywhere. Like, so, and Thorne's like, I got the ball. I'm the one that's going to push this. What is it? RDIM or RDIM or something like that. Yeah. And she's like, I got this or whatever. And Michonne, she gave Michonne her orders, like, you're just going to stay in the back, which she promptly does not follow. And I don't blame her. And
nope.
because this thing that Thorne was supposed to push, she could not push. It was too heavy, and it was kind of got sunk in the mud a little bit. And, and Michonne goes up to do it, and she's, Thorne is ordering her not to, and Michonne does it anyway. And then Rick comes and helps her, and they're like this little, 1-2 punch, and his teamwork, and they're getting the job done. And, this thing goes out, they push it out. It has this alarm. It's drawing in the walkers, and then there's an explosion, clearing out these walkers. So, Rick and Michonne, before they go and huddle behind this little tree, and they kiss. And I'm like, y'all are so dumb. like, this is not the place and time for this, but I still liked it. I was like, oh, this is so cute. Y'all
That's
so
why
dumb.
I liked it. It was not the face of time.
No.
But
yeah, but I was like, but it's cute. I love it. And but I did think that like when everything cleared, we're gonna pan to once again Thorne seeing them in a compromising position, but that didn't happen.
mm-hmm.
But what we did see is Thorne like have Dana in her sights, right? Because she's like, this chick did not do what I said. She did not follow my orders. Because here's the thing, you know, Thorne is like, she's in charge. And I think she was, again, it wasn't about Rick. It wasn't about her being jealous of Rick helping Dana. It was Dana is a threat to what we're trying to do. She is a disruption. There's good military order, and she's not. You're supposed to follow orders, and she's not. So she's gonna be a problem. Like this ain't gonna be the last time. She just doesn't follow orders, and so she's got her in her sights. And Rick notices, and he steps in between so that she doesn't shoot her. And Thorne's leadership is, you know,
questionable.
It's a little shaky, right? Like she said she was in the South African like Navy. And I'm like, your little sea legs are wobbly on land. Like your leadership is whatever y'all were doing on a boat in South Africa is not working here.
It's not translating to
like she might have been like low level.
Exactly, because she probably wasn't in high leadership when she was in the military. And you know, she orders. Well, did you guys have any thoughts about that scene before we get to Thorne sending Michonne back? Did you got that?
Yes.
Yes.
First of all, I hate the concept of order just for the sake of it. Like if you need help, use it. You brought Michonne or Dana for a reason. So when she actually helps you, what are you mad about? Like it confuses me about Thorne because supposedly she's an A, but like you said, the leadership skills ain't leadership in. This isn't making sense to me that you can't adjust. You can't see why Michonne is acting like this. If you're an A, you should be able to understand it. And I know she's been there a long time, so they might have kind of trained the A out of her. But yeah, it's not her ideas, and I feel like she has been brainwashed, and I'm wondering if she's even more aligned with Beale than maybe we think. She keeps saying she's not Okafor, but is she Beale? That's my question. So, you know, that she really frustrated me in that moment. And I'm also wondering, because it did, you know, Leslie Ann even said this is not about wanting to have Rick, but it seemed like a direct parallel to Shane. So what are they trying to tell us? It seems obvious she's going to be a problem. I'm just curious what kind of problem she's going to be. Is she going to be one of those enemies that can, I mean, like you said, they panned her when they said enemies can be your salvation. But I wonder if she might turn out to be the opposite. Like she mess some stuff up for them. So, yeah.
I mean,
watching her.
You definitely, I mean, particularly once you see her like put Dana in her sights, like you kind of were like, whoa, what's going on? But I feel like, you know, sometimes they show, so, you know, people are like, they newly in a position of power and they're scared of being threatened, because it was less that she was threatened by Michonne being uber competent and more that she thought that it would be a slippery slope. People are watch Michonne be insubordinate. And then as far as she was concerned, that made Rick insubordinate. Yeah. And next thing you know, the rest of the people are insubordinate. Nobody's listening to her. She's supposed to.
And that's what she said. She's like, you and the others, like my plan just like went out the window. She didn't follow orders. You didn't follow orders. The rest of them didn't.
You couldn't even pick the thing up. You talking about they slow as shit. What are you?
I don't even understand why are you like,
you're the smallest person here.
Exactly. Right. And you should have had one of these dudes doing that. And that's she said Okafor. And that was one of the things she admired about Okafor is that she said he led from the ground. And also, you know, you hear it in other ways, you lead from the front. Like you're not having your people do anything that you're not doing. You're in the trenches with them. Right. And so I admire that. I do. But have one of these dudes or the larger, stronger woman do this. You could have been doing something else and still, and your group still would have respected you because you were not somewhere sitting down chilling. You still would have been out there fighting the fight with them. Like, Yeah, and that's another thing about being a leader and not being, you're insecure about your position, that you're upset that she did this. And I think that kind of goes along to why she, you know, she's not an A. And I think people wrongly think military people are A's, and they're not. They're B's, which is why they make good soldiers and sailors and everything, because your job in the military is to follow orders.
Right.
That's it. That's what a B is. You happen to be a B who knows how to shoot a weapon. That's it. But you're still a B because you're a follower. And which is how I always make jokes that I'm cult adjacent or susceptible to cults, because I was in the military. It was like, you follow orders, and and people, you know, and I deal with 100% commission sales, and that's very much like a cult, but very much like a cult, even more so than the military. But yeah, so we get back, everything's over. Thorne lets Rick know, like, that was not the move. She's pissed. She does not want to see Dana again. Send her, you take her back, and you come back, and you're going to be doing basically grunt work, all the stuff that, you know, all the lowly stuff, you know, the equivalent of like peeling the potatoes or something. Like, so then Jadis again, like, bothers Rick and needs like a sexual harassment, like Me Too, like,
oh my God, seriously, report
moment.
her.
It's like so inappropriate. But her thing was like, she says that this is where she's going to be headquartered from now on. And also like, oh, you know, she hasn't seen me yet. And then of course, Michonne sees Jadis. And then talk about it, Ashley. What happens after Michonne sees Jadis?
Rick Grimes decides not to talk about the fact that Jadis is here, and I didn't mention this at all. He tells her to leave that part alone.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
He tells Michonne, like, he's like a person kicking a puppy to get it to go away. He's like, it's over. What we had is broken. I'm sending you home, even if I have to knock you out to do it. And I was like, oh, are you? Okay. And I'll be honest, like a little tiny wave of panic like washed over me when he said it's over. But also I was like, sir, what? I know what he's doing. Michonne knows what he's doing. Who do you think you're fooling? But at the same time, like, all you're doing is pissing her off. I just don't know what purpose this is supposed to serve. It's not going to work. It's going to make things worse. That's it. So it was a wild scene. Oh, clearly.
That's like officially when he was like, what we have is broken. That's when she officially got crazy eyes.
She heard the ringing alarm song. Yeah, she was no longer seeing straight. Somebody pointed out very pointedly, like, that storm is her. That's Michonne.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you, like, it's the Kill Bill siren.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh no.
Like, bruh, you played yourself.
So we're in the helicopter. She's pissed. If I were him, I would be avoiding eye contact with her at all, because when she was looking at him,
I would have been scared.
Well, I think he kept his eyes on her because it was like, I need to see with her.
Well, a lot of good it did.
Well, yeah, he wasn't ready, but like, he was just like, I need to keep her in my sights because, you know, she might want to throw hands in a minute, and she does.
I mean,
we're okay. So yeah, she tosses. They both go over, right, out of the helicopter, and this is like a circle back to the beginning of the episode when we talked about criticizing characters' choices, and like, it didn't. Ultimately, I was like, whatever. Because it was like, oh, yeah, this is great. This is a good little ending and quote unquote cliffhanger or whatever. Like, that's cool. I feel like there's like two main types of viewers. The ones who are fine with, you know, suspending all disbelief, and then the ones who will not. And the two should never meet. The two should never,
I will say, I
never have a conversation. I mean, no. I don't mean.
You mean those two viewers meeting you?
Yes.
Well, okay. No, I understand that. I think it does for us too. But I think the hardliners of each group are not like y'all. Y'all don't even need to talk about TV and movies and in books and y'all don't need to talk fiction with each other. Because like I get it and I'm cool. I'm like, okay, they went overboard. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, and then the other part of me was like, if they would have, because people are like, well, obviously she was overwater and she knew because she was looking out and this and that. And I feel like if we had got, and maybe I missed it, I don't know, an establishing shot of where they were in relation to the water, then I think some of those like people who were criticizing the idea of her like tossing them out of a helicopter and not knowing what was going on would have been eliminated. And then you can say, well, it's a cliffhanger. You'll see it next episode. It's possible, or it's possible we will get what we got in season 6, when at the end of one episode, we have Sam going, Mom, 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 when they're surrounded by walkers. And then the very next episode, it was like, that never happened. It just like we cut to something totally different. We're in a different spot. So maybe we'll see them drop in the water. It's cool. Even if they don't, like, I don't care.
I don't think we.
Yeah,
I'm budgeting that much.
It's not a big deal to me, but it's always interesting to see how people, the things that they're like, take this hard stance on when it comes to storytelling or what a show does or what characters do. But yeah, there's that. So that was that episode, right?
I just want to say, like, I don't even think I needed to see, like, it's fine that they didn't show it. For me, it was the part where Michonne said they might not make it back. And I was like, okay, that's insane, but okay. But to be fair, like I said, I am on both sides and I'm where they meet, because when it happened, it was 4:00 in the morning and I jumped out of my bed. I was like,
it did what it needed to do.
It sure did.
It did.
Oh my God, that was insane. In good and bad ways. That's what I'll say.
But and then you can also see why people were like, oh, well, maybe, could have done that a different way. And I get that too.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so that was the episode. Thorne, right? We talked about Thorne. We talked about, her relationship with Rick, that whole thing. And Imani said it, like, you kind of feel sorry for her because she doesn't realize when push comes to shove, like, this dude is not going to have your back the way that you're going to have his, because you're unaware of what's going on. You don't know who Dana is. And that was kind of, that is kind of sad because it feels like she has no one or nothing at all. And
also
then
the CRM, her mission.
Well, as Rick Grimes and his people tend to do, when they come in, they destroy stuff. So she probably ain't gonna have that pretty soon either. So she ain't gonna have nothing. What level do you think she is when it comes to what she believes, what she doesn't, when it comes to the CRM's mission? Like, where do you see her falling? Either one of you.
Mani, you want to go?
Oh, okay. I would have said before she was not where Rick was, because she was definitely far more bought in from the jump, right? Like, she wanted to be part of something, and Okafor gave her the opportunity to just kind of be a part of something again, right? And, she'd already told, and if you carry it over from the first episode, she'd already told Rick, like, don't mess with me and this, because I will shoot you. And that translated to Dana getting that treatment. She was like, don't mess with me and my standing in this organization, because I will shoot you. And I was not joking, right? So I think that she's was more bought into Okafor's vision. Like, she was bought in, and then she was bought into Okafor's vision and helping him make that vision a reality. I think if he had been still alive to kind of give context to the echelon briefing when she got it, she probably would have been in a different place. But she got that briefing without Okafor's context and whatever it was that he wanted to do. Like, and she won't have any context until Rick gets that briefing too, so that he can kind of bring her back to wherever it was that Okafor was trying to lead them. And so I think she's definitely far more in that direction than she probably was previous to knowing everything. I think that's also why she came to Rick. So, like, besides being excited about having gotten the promotion, I think it was the idea that now I know everything. Although I did think it was interesting that she was like, I've gotten the briefing, and she didn't tell him, because, like, we're in it together. Why didn't you just tell me what the briefing is now that one of us has it? But she didn't say anything. She was just she's waiting for him to get it too, like to rise to the point where he gets it too, which I think also speaks to how bought in she is now.
And she does say when she's sending Dana back that
he's about to get it.
Bill wants to brief him. And so,
I wonder if he's if this happens, I wonder if it'll be the same brief. Like, are there different echelon briefings?
Or if it's going to have that kind of, I don't think Rick is still, with Michonne, with the idea of getting back to Alexandria. But I wonder, that would be really interesting. It would definitely require more than 6 episodes. But if that briefing changes his mind too, because what if it brings about a sea change? Like, it's a whole different world than he expects, It's not, maybe it's not just a briefing about, how to seize control of this group or all these people or whatever, but really is about having a plan for humanity and stuff like that. It's like, well, it could rock Rick's world too, really.
Right.
Well, one thing about Rick, and it's been interesting, is that Rick is juggling 3 women. And he's got a story for Jadis. He's trying to spin a story for, Thorne, and he's got to deal with Michonne, who's not going to, take her foot up off his neck. Like, the man is stressed.
I think that part of that, Michonne is his partner in life, in crime, whatever. Like, share some of that with her. Might make it a little bit easier on you, make it a little easier on her, so she'll stop wilding out. Like, I don't know why he's not utilizing that. Maybe he just doesn't want to burden her with all he has. But I think, if he's going to get through this next episode is going to be him sharing a lot. I also question, like we mentioned, we know that AMC thought that they could push this reunion to episode 4 or 5, which is insane to me. I don't know. This makes me wonder if they just have a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes these shows interesting, because having Michonne and Rick back together earlier and all the angst and this ideological battle, this is the show. So what was it going to be if they didn't put them together till later? And like Imani said, it doesn't feel like all of this can be resolved in the next 3 episodes. So
yeah, because if
I really question that.
You had them separate. It's easy to know what Rick's story would have been. It would have been his life under CRM. But for 4 or 5 episodes, or at least 4, what were you going to have Michonne doing?
Right.
That would have been And that's when it would have felt I think, you would have had to really, I think it would have been difficult to get it right. But that's when people started in the flagship show talking about it feeling bloated and feeling like things were dragging or moving too, And so I definitely applaud Denai. Thank you, Denai. Thank you for saying, no, we need to come out the gate ready to go. But yeah, I think the other thing about Rick is that this thing that, has Michonne stressing you out is what you love about her. The fierceness, the stubbornness, the will to fight. That is what you love about her. That is what drew you to her. So you have to learn how to embrace that, even when it's not on your side, even when you feel like it's going against you. But that's all the more reason, like, you should let her in.
Exactly.
Let her in and explain. And maybe she'll have an idea that between the two of you, you can come up with something.
Yeah.
I think it's worth saying again, I hope I don't like set anybody off by mentioning this, but I think it's easy to overlook. They have not seen each other in 7 years. You could be totally different people in 7 years. And if Rick was the same Rick that she had seen last after 7 years, then something would have been like wrong. Like, and clearly he couldn't have been, based on what we know he endured in the last 7 years, and also what she endured in the last 7 years. Because it's not like she didn't have problems. I mean, we talked about all the things that happened to her on the flagship in these 7 years, right?
Our very second episode. So we talked about what she went through. And, prior to this show starting. So, like, seasons 9 and 10. That's our
forget.
Yeah, we didn't. We like preview part 2.
I personally hated it, but yes, we did.
Yeah. So she's gone through a lot. He's gone through a lot. They are fundamentally, not fundamentally, they are different people than they were when they knew each other last. And I think it also goes without saying, or it should go without saying, that despite the fact that Walking Dead was 10 years of our life when she was still on it, and then he was still on, it was like 8, 9 years. It was only 3 years in the life of the show, right? And she wasn't even there in the beginning.
They were together?
That they knew each other.
That they knew each other? Yeah, because Judith was about 3
years,
right?
Yeah, it was about 2 years. So I'm not diminishing their love for one another or the strength of their relationship or the fact that they are the love of each other's lives or anything like that. But I think that it's worth acknowledging yet again that this is someone that you knew for 2 years, and it is now 7 years later. And they have to come back together, and it is going to take, and you can't, as much as I would have loved to see more like stolen moments, and we probably will actually see more stolen moments. That is not the kind of thing that you can resolve in only stolen moments. So like Ashley said, I think they did need a timeout. I'm not sure how I felt about how they got it, but they did need a timeout because they do need to come to Jesus, like between the two of them. Because
I think of Homeland, and when Brody comes home, and it is very difficult for him with his family and particularly with his wife. And for all intents and purposes, Rick is like a POW or whatever. He's been held captive. He's been held against his will. And that is, like you said, not just the fact that they've been apart for 7 years. What he's gone through is going to fundamentally change you. And it's easy to, and maybe Michonne probably hoped they see each other and bam, but she doesn't know what he's been through. She doesn't know yet. Like, she knows that they held him against his will and he wasn't able to get home. She knows he's lost his hand. She knows he tried to escape and he couldn't, but she doesn't understand and doesn't know the depths to everything he's been through. It'll be very interesting to see with episode 4, like what they share.
And what they still don't.
What they don't tell each other. Like, is he gonna find out about? Well, how can you not find out about this branded X on her back? He's got to see that. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what that episode is. Like, I don't feel like we really need to talk about it because people have been talking about it forever today. So it is what it is. We'll just see what it is, and hopefully, they come out of this on the same page.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
Yeah. I'm back. Not that I stopped being excited, but I tried to like stow away all the things I heard about it. And now that we have the information from this episode leading into the next one, I'm excited for what I think is to come. But I also am wondering what 5 and 6 are, because I haven't heard anything about them, thank God. But I remember that I think some people have seen them, but
Okay.
I remember that, when they were filming the show, it was titled, the filming title was TWD Summit. And
Yeah.
now that we know what Summit means, it feels like it's going to play like a big part in the ending of this. And I'm just very curious about what's going to happen. I mean, Rick built this place from the ground up. Maybe he can topple it literally if he wants to.
Yes.
I'm really excited for this summit and whatever the end of this series brings, hopefully a season 2.
Because I imagine they're not going back to Philly, right? You only got 2 episodes left. Things are supposed to happen at this summit. So maybe they end up back in at the Cascades at this installation for this summit, and they do what they do and cause problems.
There's a part of me that
and
doesn't
kill
want
Jadis.
Yes, that. But there's a part of me that doesn't want them to destroy the infrastructure, though. Like,
right.
because my feeling is like, okay, the two of you need to get back to where you came from, but don't destroy all these people's society to get there.
Right. Even if you don't want to stay there, this is something that's beneficial for people to be able to survive and live.
And there's something brewing inside there. Like we saw at the beginning, the protest signs and, the newspaper articles. And I just don't know how they can finish this all up in 3 more episodes. I hope that speaks to a second season, or maybe we're getting a bunch of time jumps. I don't know. But I think there's a lot going on that's good and it's working really, really well. So
yeah, overall, I think, I've just been very happy with the storytelling, because this feels like it's back to where it was, where we're actually getting to talk about characters and their choices and how difficult it is, the situations they find themselves in. Like, this is what I enjoy about this franchise.
Yeah, there's something to dissect again. And can I just say, I'm very glad that real directors are back. And I looks amazing. She's properly lighted. Skin is glowing in every scene. I mean, it's such a nice change of pace for somebody who knows what they're doing.
People, you can see them. Like, even the music choices, like that moment, go back and if you don't remember the music, when we see her get her katana back.
Sword? Oh my God. It was so
I felt like it was a superhero moment.
Epic. Yes.
I was just like, it was crazy.
So good. Yeah. And I love the little soundtrack that plays whenever Michonne gets their little stolen moment. It's, like Ariel. Yeah.
Their love team.
Yeah.
They're definitely doing a lot of things right. You definitely get the feels when they're together. And just, again, because music plays such a huge part in storytelling. It can get you excited, it gets you scared, it gets you sentimental. So they've been doing a great job on, quite a few levels. But the music really stands out to me. I mean, there are moments where it stood out in the flagship, particularly in the earlier seasons. But this show, the music is,
it just feels like everything's been elevated a bit.
The budget
wanted.
They've been using all those dollars. All those
and they
dollars,
tell us every chance they get.
They sure do. And I'm like, yep, y'all used every dime they gave y'all.
You can see it. Yeah, it looks really good.
The visuals, I mean, you could just look at some of these different shots and they just look just amazing.
Even the helicopter cutting through the mountains to get to the spot, that was gorgeous. And I remember thinking that from just the trailers and stuff, and the mist in the trees when they're in the forest and stuff. And then in the first episode, and then now the picture of the installation, and in the first episode, the construction of the installation, and behind him, behind Rick happening. And then now looking at the installation, I was like, oh,
it's incredible, especially comparing it to the trash heap and the CGI deer.
Exactly.
Wow, this is what money does. Okay.
Exactly. Thank you, money.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a wrap on episode 3. Thanks for joining us. Rate, follow, like, and subscribe. But before you go, drop by the comments and let us know. What were your favorite moments, and what do you think of Thorne? Is she friend, foe, or a little bit of both? See you next week.